Welcome to episode number 3 of Stories of Strength. Just in case this is your first time tuning in, this podcast is about basically redemption. It's about sharing stories where people have overcome adversity, and most importantly, learning about how to get through the adversity to be successful today. And the reason that I started this podcast is because I'm hoping somebody out there can hear something that will help them make a better decision today to have an awesome and more fulfilling life tomorrow. So today I am very, very excited to have my guest, Victor Garcia.
What it be? What it do?
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully we'll get some laughs in. Victor's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my entire life. He's magnetic. People just absolutely love being around him. And he's kind and he's thoughtful and he's a hard worker. And he also has a really great story that when you shared it with me, I was like, holy wow. And I thought, man, like, I want people to know about your story. And I want people to know about your success. And as we get through this episode, Victor is going to tell you more about where he came from. And then he's going to tell you about something he'd been dreaming about.
That's right. For
some time. And he is going to share that too. So, Victor, when you and I first met, immediately I was like, this guy's awesome. We do a lot of networking together.
We do.
And as I got to know you, I was like, okay, he's really funny, but there's like more to you. You know what I mean? Like way more to you. And we all had a really fun night filming some video for a realtor. And we all kind of like became pretty good friends that day. You know, we all talked, we got to know each other. And then I knew like you were really, really special. So
thank you. Special ed.
Well, that's a iffy one. No, I'm just kidding. Special because you don't come across people like Victor every day. So I always show gratitude. I know you're a busy person. And also, I know it's not always like very, very easy to share personal details about your life. But hopefully, because you believe in the mission of Stories of Strength and helping others, that is a great way for you to give back and share, you know, your journey. And so I'm kind of going to hand the proverbial mic over to you.
Okay.
And I just let's start kind of from, I'm going to say maybe your teenage years.
Yeah. I'm originally from Pasadena, California. Did
you go to a Rose Bowl?
I do. I was there actually a month ago.
Nice.
Yeah. Cali kid, grew up in Pasadena, and just like everybody else, had a tough upbringing, having issues at home, having issues, in the home front, really, just, from seeing, abusive home and your mother getting beat up and stuff like that. And of course, when you grow up in that type of environment, you tend to sway very negatively, you tend to.
Do you think that when people grow up in this kind of environment, they tend to seek alternate forms of family?
Oh yeah, no doubt. And my way out was, my friends and people that, at the same time weren't doing good things in the neighborhood. They were not the best examples or best role models in my life.
What enticed you to become friends with them? Were they open to you, or did they have similar situations that you could like identify to, or what like initially attracted you? Because I mean, and I you'll hear this throughout my podcast. Like, I definitely grew up in the city of Detroit, spent a lot of time of my life there. I mean, there are other people to hang out with, but they weren't necessarily people that I identified with. So was that similar for you? Like, could you have been like hang out with nerdy kids? Were there nerdy kids?
Yeah, definitely in Pasadena. There's a bunch of nerdy kids in Pasadena. It's that's what I love about Pasadena. We're so intertwined. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything there. And but I think sometimes. I think that just a neighborhood. I grew up, but where they grew up, the violence, the street gangs in California.
Yeah.
We were going through at that time. I think it was the Rodney King riots.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with Rodney King.
Lockdown and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we had the LA riots going down there. And so I think a little bit of all of that. And I didn't really have a father figure. I didn't meet my dad until I was 10. Wow. So it's growing up. Sometimes you kind of tend to look for that connection, so a lot of my buddies as well, didn't either have a father, didn't have a mother, or, just rough.
Or they weren't present. They were there, but not there kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So because of it, I ended up going to the juvenile hall system very young. Went through Central, downtown LA, went to Silmar, ended up going through a boot camp program because of it. I was locked up at the age of, I believe it was 14 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. So at 14.
Yeah. Like what was going on in your 14-year-old head when you started to enter into like the juvenile justice system?
I think I was disappointed in myself. I saw, like, I couldn't believe that I was going to jail. I always thought, like, as a kid, whatever, it was not going to happen to me. That's not going to be me. Like, that happens to the other kids, that happens to... And you think that you're doing what you're doing is not going to lead for you getting arrested, Did you think what you were doing as bad as what it was as bad as what it was? I guess is what I mean. It's like, could your brain process like the severity of some things that you were doing, or did you know and you were like, I'm just not going to get caught? Yes, I think we're teenagers. It's like we're slick, we're smart, we're smarter than the police, we're smarter than our parents, we're smarter than the detectives.
Yes,
we're smarter than
can
everybody.
outsmart everybody.
Yeah. Okay. At that age, I knew what I was doing was not right. Yeah,
you're like, it probably wasn't the best decision, and you knew that at that age.
yeah, no doubt. And so when I went and went to the juvenile hall system, it was difficult, because you had to reality check. You don't listen to your parents, you don't listen to the teachers, you don't listen to the principals, to the deans, you don't listen to anybody. And once you're in that situation when you're in a juvenile hall, you have to listen. You're locked up in a room for a long period of time where you kind of are able to recap, and see, like, Jesus, like. And of course, you're still very young at the age of 14.
Yeah.
Not caring, still with the gang mentality.
Right.
And so, I did about a year and a half, my first time.
What was the first night like do you remember?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
What was that night like for you? The first night that you knew you'd be on a long vacation?
Yes, great questions, Heather. Wow, you're making me go back. I think when you're there, you think about your family. You think about mom. You think about all the times they're telling you, don't do this, don't do that.
You're like, I wish I would have listened.
Yeah, and you start missing the simple things like, your bed. Good food.
I was gonna say food.
Good food.
You can only have so many ramen noodles.
Yeah.
And actually, in like juvenile hall, it's even worse. Like you really don't even get that. Yeah.
No, you get whatever the state provides.
Yeah.
And usually it has no salt, no sugar. Because they don't want us to be active or all wired up with sugar and things happening. Huh. And it's so gangly because you're there with. Everybody from East Los, West Los. You're there from, everybody from the SGV, from San Fernando Valley. You're there from the IE. And it's all, the juvenile system. And then once you go to like the boot camp or that type of setting, then it changes. The program changes. Yeah. You take classes.
I'm so curious. Do these gangs like that are out on the streets, definitely rivals? Do you band together? Or do you continue to have the rivalry?
In the juvenile hall system, you still have the rivalry.
Yeah.
You still get into it with one another.
Yeah.
I think once you go into like the prison system, it changes.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or once you go into the California Youth Authority system, CYA, then that tends to stop.
Because that's more like the politics of the grown-up prison.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Okay.
So I went to juvenile hall system. Like I said, did a year and a half for the first time. Went to a boot camp. Ended up in Laverne, the city of Laverne.
Okay.
They had it's called Camp Page. So on you guys from the camp days that here's podcast, big shout out to you guys. So Camp Page in Laverne, and became licensed but did wildland firefighting.
So are you giving a shout out because they made a difference for you?
Yeah, well, because you're there as a team. You're there for, you learn how to combat wildland firefighting. I was very proud of myself because you're part of a fire. Yeah, you're a fire team. You're part of a fiery camp. And then you would get called to these fires, and you would go out there and fight them. And I was.
So these are really fires. This is not just a training ground. You were actually
we're active.
helping to save probably some lives too.
Well, property it's mostly wildland. So it's out in the SGV and the Azusa and the mountains out there.
Save the environment.
Yeah, save the environment.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
So I was there for a year and a half, and then I got out, came out of jail, Chicago Juvenile Hall. Was only out in the streets for 6 months.
I was going to say you reformed, right?
No.
Do you feel like you learned to be more of a criminal? Or were you just angry? Or was it just that you got out and it was like going back to the old environment? And
no, I think it made me grow up quicker because, you're held... You're held, you're responsible for your own activities throughout the day. You're held accountable for what you do, and it's up to you to listen or not listen. If you don't, then things will go south very fast. But
so you come home.
Yeah, I could come home.
You spent a good half a year at home.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Still being a knucklehead. Still very involved with the gang life. And lifestyle. So
I'm going to ask you a quick question about that. Did you feel as if you had a choice as to whether or not you were going to continue with that lifestyle?
Yes.
So you could have chosen not to continue to be involved.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, at that age, in California, everything's so gang related. Everything's so involved. So
I'm like, this is like late 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 90s.
Yeah.
So at that point, I came out still very, thinking I'm super badass because I just went through juvenile hall.
No, you were tougher.
Yeah. I came out thinking like I was even more things. Like I was street smarter. I went through the system, did a year and a half, got a couple of juvenile hall stripes on me. Thinking different mentality, very active still. And so when I came out, I was still very involved, very hanging out with the friends, and obviously breaking my mother's heart. My mom, poor thing. She went through so much because of me. So again, got involved and committed another act of crime and got incarcerated again.
Now this time, was it in youth authority or were you now in adult?
No, I was still at this point. I was like 16, going towards 17.
Okay.
So I was still in the juvenile hall system, but in juvenile, when you're a minor in California and you can't send you to a prison because you're not charged at a prison.
Right.
So they have something called the CYA, which is California Youth Authority.
Youth Authority, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they call it
that's like the in-between?
Yeah, that's like the in-between, like the little gladiator school. Because people end up going through that
prep
stage.
you for prison.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like funny we're laughing about it, but there's definitely something wrong with that system, right?
Yeah. Well, they're closed down now, so who knows what happened there. But so you go through there, and usually you're there till up until the age of 25.
Oh.
Yeah. So some people, they get like juvenile life. Like some people get life sentences, but they're so young, they get juvenile life, which means they only stay up until the age of 25. So yeah. So they're
So
incarcerated.
juvenile life, you're done at 25
You're
and
done
you're
at
back out into society?
You're back into society.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's different than 25 years to life. Or
and then but some people, because they go through the system, they'll transfer to the prison system at the age of 18 because maybe they're continuing that pattern in the California authority system. Because once you're there, the politics happen. The politics,
Mass psychology.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah. So you go through that stage, and through California authority, it was different ballpark. They gave me it was 8 years.
Whoa.
The second time.
Did you have to serve all 8 years? Or I think in California, don't they do like half-time or three-quarter
I did
time?
6.
Yeah.
I did 6 years. I still had 2 more years left. So at this point,
That's intense.
yeah.
Wow.
So from 14, then I was only out. I did a year and a half, out for 6 months, and then went back to jail. And then out of the 8 years they gave me, that second time I did 6.
Wow.
And keep in mind, during this time, like, I did not know how to read. I was not educated at all. My first language was Spanish.
What year of school did you complete at that time?
When I went to jail?
Yeah,
once I
like
came
what
out?
grade had you completed?
I was in 9th grade. I was a 10th grader
So you got all the way to 10th grade
without reading.
with really not knowing how to read.
Exactly.
How does that even happen?
The California educational system. Yeah.
Were there other people that were in the same boat?
A lot of us. A lot of kids. And I would say
How?
85% of the kids in juvenile hall when we were little kids did not know how to read. Did not know how to read. So a lot of them did not know how to write.
Do you think that had they had that simple life skill of it's not simple, but basic life skill, do you think reading and writing would help people to be in better situations? Or do they not know how to read and write because they chose the path? What do you think about that?
Well, for me, it was hard because my first language was Spanish. My mom taught me how to read and write in Spanish. So when we would go to church, it was all in Spanish.
So you weren't illiterate?
No. And then so when I went and started going to school in California, it was hard for me because I couldn't, my vowels, I couldn't capture the English as well.
Right.
And my sister did very well, but I was struggling. And we had issues at home as well. My sister was being molested.
Oh.
Well, my mom was married to an evil man. And so, I think all of that kind of swayed for me to focus on what I had to do at school, because at that point we were
worried about way more intense things that were going on. It's kind of hard to be like, I want to do good in school when you're worried about what's happening at home.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is
Mom's
a very
beat up.
That's a very chronic disease that happens to kids that are going through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember my mom used to come pick me up, and she had black eyes. So she would have to wear sunglasses. And I was embarrassed because I'm like, who wants to get picked up with mom having black eyes?
Well, yeah, that's how the brain of a child thinks, of course. And then now you look back and you think, no, I wasn't embarrassed of you. I was embarrassed for you. Mm-hmm. Right? Reality is you weren't embarrassed of your mom. You're embarrassed that your mom had black eyes.
Yeah, the situation.
And why is she going through this? Mm-hmm. And then now I'm going through it too.
Yeah.
And probably there was a sense of helplessness, I'm assuming. You can't really control an adult man when you're a teenager.
Not even that, a boy. Yeah. I mean, because he was out of the household by maybe when I was done with elementary. So when I started,
this was very early.
Yeah. So when I started middle school, I think that's when I kind of associated more with my friends, and it was more with the lifestyle.
That's a lot of trauma to process for a young kid. And then, what that does, and what I've learned about it, it's it makes your hardwiring different, and the way that you process and think through things, it's you just learn it on your own. You weren't taught the skill set, the coping, the stuff that you would learn, maybe if mom could not be distracted by being, assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some life skills that I'm sure it was something she wanted you to know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard to teach those lessons when you're still going through those kind of traumas yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and then we had to switch schools because we were worried about him trying to, you know, physically assault us and, you know, continue to hurt us. And
where does this guy live now? Nah, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. That's another topic, another conversation.
Different podcast.
Yeah, different podcast. Yes. So I think a lot of that because, you know, I became very violent after that because I felt like I was so young. I couldn't defend my mother. I couldn't defend my sister. I was being bullied at school.
Yeah.
You know, so I think I triggered to sort of violence because I had to defend myself. I wanted to defend my family. I didn't want to defend my mother, my sister, make sure nothing like that happened ever again to any of my family members. You know. And
also, like, it gives you a sense of having control, right? Mm-hmm. Like in an area where you don't have any control, you can be angry and you can have control through anger. I know it sounds crazy, but I've fortunately, this is a phenomenon. I think a lot of kids go through that because their lack of control. So sometimes it comes out in the form of eating disorders, substance abuse, anger disorders, because your body and your mind, it's just trying to process how can you have a voice.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, so I think once I went through the system and you know, with the juvenile hall, like I said, I didn't know how to read really. And then, so that's why I think I'm grateful for being incarcerated because if I never went to jail, I never would have learned how to read.
Yeah.
Because
you were in a program for reading. And
no, I was not. Because the juvenile hall system doesn't really care as you think they do.
So you taught yourself to read.
Yes. Like, so I would go to the library, pick books, and because, you know, I like fantasy books, like, you know, so I picked up, you know, fantasy books
like
and trilogy books. It's called like The Forging of the Sword. I remember the book. It was a 3-book series.
Are you a Game of Thrones fan?
Yes, Game of Thrones. Yeah, I am. You know, I like the Harry Potters.
I was just gonna say all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like the fantasy. You know, so that's how I learned. I taught myself how to read.
Wow.
So I would be in my cell and I would read out loud to myself. And if I was lucky enough to have a cellie, then I would read, you know, to you know, out loud, and he would listen. But I did it to help my vocabulary to able to speak and read really. And luckily, when I went to CYA, I was lucky enough to get my high school diploma in jail in California's authority. So I never went to prom, didn't have a homecoming, all that because I was incarcerated. And for my graduation, our teacher, one of the teachers there, gave us a burrito, a carne asada burrito. So for my high school diploma, all I got was a carne asada burrito.
That was your big graduation party? That was
my graduation party. It was, I think, 3 or 4 of us that graduated. And so we were eating carne asada. And for us, we were loving it.
I was going to say, probably in that time, though, that was a gift.
Oh, hell yeah. You know,
it's like, when was the last time you had, like, really yummy, like, tasty food that had flavor to it?
Yeah. So I finished. And so what happened with my situation, my mother and my sister had moved to Arizona.
Okay.
I was still incarcerated. And my sister had got a job out here. And this was back in 1999, maybe, you know, to 2000. And so the housing market back then was, you know, you're buying houses at 70, 80, 90,000.
So they were smart. They're like, let's blow this pop stand and go to Arizona.
Yeah, let's leave California. Let's go to Arizona. And so they sent a letter to the parole board. I had to go to the parole board. And they were like, hey, you know what? We got a letter from your mother. She stated that they would love for you to move to Arizona. They feel that would be a better fit for you, you know, and get you away from that California environment.
Yeah.
And of course, I was like, heck no, I'm not leaving California.
You're still in the sticks of it, yeah.
Like, and not even that. Like, I was like, no, like, it's, you know, what am I going to do in Arizona, right?
Right.
So
start over.
Yeah. And so then the parole board was like, look, Mr. Garcia, if you decide to stay and not go to Arizona, You still have 2 years of your sentence. So you're going to stay here and complete your 2 years because you graduated high school. And during that time, they had like a college program. You kind of like go to like a
get an associate's degree kind of thing.
Type of thing. So they're like, we'll keep you here for that. Or if not, you'll be released and we'll fly you to Arizona in 2 months, 3 months time.
Oh, that's kind of a hard deal to say no to.
Right. I was like, stay 2 more years or fly to Arizona.
Freedom.
Yeah. So what's crazy is that I was in handcuffs. They took me out and they drove me to the airport in California in handcuffs. And obviously they took off the handcuffs when I was there.
Not because they wanted to be nice to you, though. They didn't want to scare other people.
Right.
Let's be realistic here.
Yeah. So they walked me up to the airport, and I jumped on the plane, and I flew to Arizona at Phoenix International, and I was a free man. And they gave me a month or so to check in, and I did. I checked in, and one of the conditions that I could not go to California for 2 years, which was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, at this stage of my life, I was 19, going on 20. No, I was actually 20 already. I was 20 years old.
You're still a baby.
Yeah. So I came out, and with different mindset at this point. I wanted to go to college. I knew I did not want that lifestyle of being incarcerated, that gang lifestyle, and I need to make a change.
Wow.
So when I moved out here, I went to college. I got my associate's degree.
Where did you go to college at?
Collins College in Tempe.
Okay.
So I have an associate in computer networking.
Awesome.
Yeah, I knew computers were going to be the future. I knew I wanted to be involved, or I didn't want to be blind to not knowing what
was the computer world like?
Yeah,
you knew
what it did, what was the process, what was the program, what was the upload. I knew the computers were the future, so I got an associate's in computer networking. My first job in Arizona was at Walmart. So shout out to Walmart. So I did Walmart for about a year.
Okay.
And during that time, I ended up getting a job offer at Wells Fargo. And I was like, okay, with my background, there's no way in hell I'm going to be working at the bank. There's no way.
So what did you learn about that? Did you have a financial fraud in your time when you were in trouble? Did you ever?
No, it was nothing ever. Everything was always assault in my case. There was nothing with people's personal information.
Did you have adult felonies or only juvenile felonies?
They were all juvenile felonies, and so but the way it's all in the wording, right? So like in the applications, they tell you, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Yeah. Well, because I was a juvenile and I was in California,
it would be expunged.
No,
anyway.
We're adjudicated because we're juveniles. So
you've been adjudicated of a felony.
Yeah. Okay. So now some of the applications now they ask you, have you been adjudicated of a felony or have you ever convicted of a felony? So because I was never convicted, I was a juvenile. It was called adjudication or something like that.
Sure. I understand exactly what that word means.
Yeah. So then technically I can answer the question no, because I was never convicted. I was adjudicated of a felony.
Were you able to expunge that from your record, or are you able to?
I think I can now. I really haven't. I mean, it's been so long. I mean, I'm 40 years old now. So I mean, we're talking about when I was 14, 15. It was a very long time ago. So most of the times, like people don't ask or it doesn't pull up anymore.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was like, I just got out. I only worked at Walmart for a year. And I really didn't think I would get the job. And a buddy of mine was like, no, just apply, just see what happens.
Try it out.
Just try it out. And thank God, I worked at Wells Fargo as a teller.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right. And who would thought, and here's a guy that didn't know how to read. Now got his high school diploma, going to college, got a job as a teller, and I swear, like, Wells Fargo, I think, gave me a lot of great training.
I mean, it's a world class. That's what they're known for. I have a question about that. What did it feel like the first day that you put on clothing to be a banker and you walked into your job?
Terrified.
Really?
I was terrified. I was waiting to be let go.
So you had the imposter syndrome going on.
I don't know what that is.
Like where you don't think that. So the imposter syndrome, from what I understand, it's like, yes, you've made it and you're doing it, but you yourself feel as though you're an imposter. Like you don't actually belong, or like they're going to find out that you don't belong. Yeah.
No, oh, yes, very. Yeah. Because, I was waiting. I mean, I passed my background, did everything, but I'm just like, okay, I'm a felon. I just came out from doing so many years. And they never did. So I think my first year, my first 6 months was very. I was always on eggshells. I was always like, they're gonna come get me. They're gonna say, hey, you don't belong here. Your background showed up. We got your records from California. And they didn't. And I went from a teller to a merchant teller, from a merchant teller to a banker. Nice. Then from a banker, then I did business banking.
Wow. And
then as a business banker, I ended up getting promoted to a mortgage lender. So then I ran 3 branches for Wells Fargo.
I don't know any of this about your story. Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, so I became a lender with Wells Fargo, and then I ran 3 locations in the West Valley. Wow. So I mean, it was huge, and I was still young. I was still in my mid-20s.
I was going to say, that's a lot to accomplish.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I was just eager to learn and ready to make a difference in my life.
Like in my mid-20s, I was like, I wasn't running any branches of any banks.
Yeah.
And I already had like my college degree at that point. And so for the previous experience to get to that point, it's amazing.
Thank you.
But I also want to recognize that you probably truly, as much as it was negative to go through that, you probably really did learn some very unique skill sets that other people that have not been through your personal situation may not have access to learning those skill sets.
And you're right, because people, the biggest question people ask me, like, Victor, how do you get along with so many people? Like, how do people, like, you're able to talk to anybody? Like, and the truth is,
you had to get along with a lot of people in small space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being incarcerated, you're dealing with so many individuals with so many mental
health issues.
Yes. Yes. So, you learn how to talk. You learn how to understand. You learn how to listen. Diffuse. Yes.
Yeah.
Situations very fast and get yourself out of situations like that. So, and that's helps me in marketing and advertisement and going out and knocking on people's doors. And some people are happy to see you, some people are not, and it's okay.
Who's not happy to see Victor?
So
give me their phone numbers. I'll let them know what they're missing out on.
Right. That was a big training. That's helped me.
What a great training field, although difficult.
It's difficult, very.
It's just like those unique. So this is kind of like the point of this whole podcast, right? Is that in the darkest things, there's light.
Yes.
And so your aha moment happened very early for you.
And it still happens.
Well, I hope happens. So. And
yes.
We're going to talk about that in a second, because I want to talk about what you've accomplished.
Thank you.
But your aha moment happened very early for you, in the sense of you made the decision that you weren't going to continue to live this kind of life.
Yes.
And because you made that decision, whether it was out of the maturity that you'd gained from having had the hard experience, or just that you were like, crap, I don't want to ever live like this again. Mm-hmm. Whatever that moment was for you, you really ran with it. And there's a lot of people that want to run with it, but they don't believe they can. So they may have the aha moment, but they don't take that next step.
And I think what helped me was really like what my mother and my sister did, take me out of that environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think they're absolutely right. I think if I would have went back, temptation.
That's all you know. Like when you go to the old neighborhood, you see the old friends.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you care for them because they were your family support.
Mm-hmm.
They were your built family.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you know that what they're asking you to do isn't the right thing, there's probably somewhere in the brain that's like, well, this is my family. We have to do this. Mm-hmm. Or this is like, I owe this to them. Or in order to keep up our I mean, gangs are like businesses, and you have to have money coming in. So in order for the business to continue, X, Y, and Z things happen for a greater good.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's probably a really like glossy way to talk about it.
Glossy way. I like that. I like
a very
that.
glossy, prettied up version of it.
Yeah.
But it's like to think about that in terms of what's really happening, you know, and where you can relate it to why do people go back to that? I was just talking about this. I actually have to look up the statistic, but the last time I read something, recidivism, especially with youth offenders, I mean, it's like 95% go back. And then when they do like interviews about this, number one thing is they go back to the old neighborhood. And so your mom and your sister gave you an incredible gift of life, really. And look at what you're doing today.
A second opportunity. Yeah. I mean, because I mean, I regret not going to a prom. I wish I went to homecoming. You know, those are the things that I can never get back, ever.
Do you make those things really special for your girls?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, for my sons and my daughters, like any type of special high school event, like, and I tell them like, hey, I didn't get to go through this, so let's do this. Let's get the limo. Let's you know, wild out.
No wonder they love you so much. No wonder you're like the fun, cool dad, huh? Most of the time.
Sometimes.
But you mean business here. I'm sure.
I'm strict.
Because you have good kids.
Thank you.
They're really good kids, and they're doing things for themselves.
Yes, they are.
Are well adjusted. So you're offering them
we'll behave.
Different.
Yes, we'll behave.
But that doesn't only come from being a cool dad. Because if you were only a cool dad, the well-behaved part doesn't just foster itself, right?
Right.
So you were at Wells Fargo.
Yeah, so I was at Wells Fargo. I did.
You learned a lot about business.
Learned a lot about business because when I was a business banker, you know, you have to do the sole proprietors, the LLC, the corporations. You open up those accounts. I learned a lot, and being as a lender, I learned what rates were. You know, what 30-year fixed, what the FHA is, conventional, and you know, then running 3 locations, you learn how to manage, to talk, to get along with people, help them build themselves, because at that point you're building a team.
I was going to say you've got clients to manage, and then you have people internally to manage as well.
Yeah, and you know, I wish I would have stuck with Wells Fargo, but I was, you know, hungry. I was climbing the ladder very fast, and they wouldn't allow. I wanted to be a branch manager, and they said yes, but they wanted me to hold on because they felt that I was still young.
Well, they wanted you to have more training.
Yes, and, you know, and of course.
No,
I'm running 3 branches. What are you talking about? Like, I'm their top producer within the district, and these are the numbers I'm bringing in, and you know, and
I don't think you were completely wrong for thinking that.
Well,
I can see both sides.
Yeah, and now that I'm older, they were right. They were right. Now that I'm a little older, I think they were right. You know, and so I left. I ended up leaving, and I ended up going with Chase. You know, so I became a branch manager with Chase Bank. So
you got that dream. You got that dream.
You know, I was like, okay, this is what I want to be. And, you know, I was there, and then I was there, maybe a year and a half. You know, and making good money, but obviously things started going on the home front. I started having issues at home. You know, started going through a separation.
That makes it really hard to continue to advance a career when you're going through that.
And then I felt I was making more money as a lender than I was as a branch manager. So then I was like,
So now you're going to go back into lending.
Yeah, I went back into lending.
Okay.
Went back into lending. And so then the economy crashed. Was it 2008, 2009?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The glory years.
The glory, yeah. So the housing market flipped. You know, I went from averaging several loans to averaging no loans. Yeah. The market's upside down. The equity's upside down. The properties. People are just giving their homes away. Foreclosures are going like crazy.
Yeah, that was a tough time.
Yes.
It really was.
And at this time, I was living in the town of Buckeye, and a new State Farm agent had just opened up in Buckeye. Okay. So I went from, like, you know, being a lender and being in the bank to, you know what, let's jumped ship. I got my licenses for insurance, and so now I have my personal PNC license, my life and health license. I took those. I have those under my belt now too, and I started working for a State Farm.
Did you ever get, or have you since gotten your 6 and 63 for variable products?
I have not. No, I have not. I have not.
It's a hard test.
Yes, it is.
It's a really hard test.
I've taken it, actually.
Yeah,
and I have not passed.
Too.
I didn't
Twice.
pass. Yeah, I didn't pass.
And I don't have a securities license, so I get it.
Okay, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, it was a tough one. Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
It is.
So I went and I started working at State Farm. Then I was with State Farm for, 6 years, 7 years.
Oh, you were there a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had very good mentors. I learned a lot through State Farm and their education programs, and the people I really worked with. They showed me a lot, especially when it comes to the insurance industry.
Yeah.
And I ran with it. So then from there.
Yeah, you worked for two very well-known organizations for offering world-class training, getting people up to speed on world-class service. Both Wells Fargo and State Farm are known for those things.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
They're number one in their industries, what they represent, and
it's true.
And they gave me a lot of training, and thank God, because I look at every opportunity, even if it's a bad opportunity, you learn something from it.
I was going to say, are there really any bad opportunities? There are opportunities that are not the right opportunities.
Right.
And I certainly can understand, sometimes you're I don't know if that's really should be called an opportunity.
Yeah.
But let's go with it.
Right.
So I understand. So, okay, so you're at State Farm. Now you know how to be a loan officer. Mm-hmm. Now you know how to insure a home and a vehicle, and are you doing life and health also?
Doing life and health.
So you're making sure people could build legacies.
Correct.
And
that's very powerful. When you go into a funeral home and you have a check. Yeah. It's. I mean, when I paid out my first life insurance policy, it was an eye opener. It's a strange feeling because
it's really hard to have the initial conversation. I actually, for a very short period of time, had those licenses as well.
Okay.
And I remember, and I really believed in life insurance. And I still do. But people don't really like to talk about their mortality. And it's one of those conversations that you're okay, we got to talk about it.
We're all going there.
Yeah. Death and taxes.
Yeah.
They're for sure.
Yeah.
So what was it like?
Death, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what was it like? I'm sure that person, when you were able to give the life insurance check to them, they were probably really happy that you, I don't want to say pushed them to have the conversation, but that you had it with them.
They were. It's sad that in my culture, in our community, the Latinos always oh no, why am I going to get life insurance? That's going to be for the Sancha. That's going to be. Why am I going to leave her with money when we've been broke together? Right. She needs to continue being broke. And it's sad to say that they don't think about the legacy of their family, their future. And
what about the kids?
Yeah.
Who pays the mortgage when you're the sole provider?
Yeah. What happened with the nice truck that you were making payments on? Who's going to continue making those payments?
Right. Yeah.
And so when I was having the conversation, they were very pushy. No. And they did something, a simple term policy, and sad to say, they either passed away.
You have to exercise it, yeah.
They passed away, and they were very grateful, that I was able to convince them to get the policy, and when you walk in there and you don't have to worry about no funeral expenses, no additional cost.
And, because you really don't want to be mourning and then also trying to figure out how to honor your loved one.
Yeah.
That's a real... and unfortunately, I'm sure that this has happened where you've had a friend's parent or somebody they've passed away, and the family doesn't get to make the choice. They have to choose the least expensive thing, which is typically cremation. And perhaps that's not even what their wishes are, but that's what they can afford. And so they're trying to grieve and trying to honor their family member. And those things are not really a great combination.
They're not.
You know, and so to take that off somebody's shoulders is huge.
Oh, yeah. You walk in there and everybody's like, who's that guy? Oh, he's the insurance guy. He's the one with the check. He's paying for the event, you know.
For the event.
You know.
The celebration of life,
celebration.
Right? We're so used to sponsoring events. It's so funny. So I want to, I'm going to switch gears here with you a little bit. And not completely, but so you know my husband.
Yeah.
Right?
I do.
So one thing you should know about Isaac is that he literally cannot remember anybody's name. He knows nobody's name. Like sometimes even people who are like really good friends with, he's like, yeah, that girl. I'm like, you're talking about one of my best friends here, man. She has a name. So it's
She's been around the house for 10 years.
Yeah, like you've met her 800 times. Like, how do you not know the name? And so it's just something. He doesn't really remember names, but he remembers things about people. And so if I were to say to Isaac, hey, I'm going to go, like, I'm interviewing Victor today. Like, if I say that, which actually I did say that yesterday, he's like, Victor. I'm like, Dreamer. So in our house, you're called Dreamer, FYI.
Okay.
We don't even call you Victor anymore.
Okay.
It's just called Dreamer. Or what about Dreamer? So, but we developed that because you shared with us. I mean, there's an importance and there's a reason why we call you that. So I want you to tell a little bit about that.
Well, you know, geez, how do I even start with this one?
Well, you had a dream.
Yeah, you know, it's growing up. You know, when I found out that that's not the life I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the life I wanted to continue. Especially for my mother. You know, she's done so much. She's been through so much. You know,
she even helped you today.
Yeah, she helped me today.
She loves me. She loves you.
And you know, so you know, after going through what I've been through and the experiences that I've been through, you know, I decided, you know, well, why don't I, you know, create my own dream and open up my own insurance brokerage. And
did you do it?
I did.
And what's your insurance company called?
Dreamers Insurance.
Give your number.
Yeah, 623
How do people find you?
231 1617.
Say it again.
623-231-1617.
What's your website?
Not up yet. We don't have the website yet.
Okay.
I'm still working on the website.
Work in progress.
I just opened up my brokerage in February of this year. So after State Farm, I went to Allstate, and it was Allstate for some years, and decided to go with my dream. You know, and you know, a lot of people that are in my situation, you know, we get stuck in a career. We get stuck in places where, you know, we stop growing. Yeah. And that's where I felt I was at, you know, and I wanted to continue to grow. I knew I wanted to continue to help my community. I wanted to help the people that are getting shady deals out there.
Well, that and like, I mean, this is an unfortunate across the board issue, but there's been a lot of studies on this. Latinos are very underserved in the areas of like financial services, home buying, education, financial literacy. Like those are really important things for people who work very hard and are very cash heavy, like for sure. And then what's next? So it's great that you're making a move in the community that you serve to help them better be prepared, insured, and have their legacy go on.
You know, I have to give back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that people are like, oh, I want to give back. It's I have to. You know, it's I have to. I mean, right now, you know, I reached out to El Consulado Mexicano.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully here soon I'll be one of the representatives at the consulate, and about education, you know, educating.
So what does that mean? Like, what will you be doing at the consulate? Like, how will you be helping?
A great question. So I'll be hosting a class on what homeowners insurance is, what it represents, Why do they need homeowners insurance? And then thank God, because I am a broker and I have so many options, I can actually help people that don't have, say, a U.S. license here. Maybe they're here on vacation, they're here on a visa, but they're driving.
Sure.
So now I'm going to be able to provide insurance for them and help them make sure that not only they stay protected, but everybody else on the road stays protected.
Right, like all the parties.
They are the parties,
Yeah.
And sometimes when people come from different countries, they don't understand, or maybe they don't require insurance.
Sure.
There. And in Arizona, it's law.
It's law.
It's law.
And you can't get away from it.
You can't, people, they'll take your vehicle, they'll impound it for 30 days now. So it's sad, but our people don't know that.
Right.
And who's going to tell them that? And if they listen to a commercial,
You're going to tell them.
I'm going to tell them that. And thank God that, the consulate has reached out and they're willing to give me time and set up a booth there and to help and talk and educate, really, and my people, give back.
I love that. So you started your own business.
I did.
And I remember when you and I were, you had shared that you really wanted to do that. And I was like, dude, you should absolutely, yes. Everybody loves you, Victor. You should have your own business. You. I mean, truly, like, you can literally talk to anybody. Anybody. I've seen it, like, a lot of times. A lot.
But my kid's like, Dad, you don't shut up, Dad. You just keep going and keep going. I was like, because people want to talk to me. I don't know.
They want to. You've never met a stranger. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. That's an incredibly important skill set that not everybody has, and you should be really proud of it. But I remember you telling me that, and, I love to hear dreams, and I never, in my head, there's no timeline on it because it's not my dream. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of in the background rooting for you.
Thank you.
And then I was rooting for you. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And my husband and I had talked about it. You had shared your story with us, and we were like, dang, like, he has to do that. And I remember Isaac checking in with me, like, about every 30 days. He's like, did Dreamer get the dream job going? Did he get, he would just say funny things. And I'd be like, let me call him. Like, let me check in. And I remember when I think you posted your logo. And you don't know this, but you posted your logo, and or maybe I got your business card. It was something like that. And I came home and I'm like, Isaac, look. And I showed either it was a graphic or the video or the business card. And he's like, hell yeah. He's like, hell yeah, I'm so proud of him. And so we root for you,
Thank you,
and we're really, really, it's not easy to start a business.
It's not.
I mean, actually, the act of starting a business, like getting an LLC and these kinds of things, it's actually not that hard. That's the easy part.
I think it's the emotional part.
It's the emotional part. It's the next step part.
Am I doing it right? Am I saying the right thing? Is the logo looks good? Are people
going to receive you well?
Yeah. Are people going to reach out to me? Are people going to, and thank God, like, because of my work ethic, people have been 100% supportive, and including you, Heather. Thank you for your support here. But like, it's I've gotten so much positive feedback, and it just speaks volumes of my job, of people appreciating what I do for them, and how I go to signings, I go to closings, I go to titles, I go everywhere,
You support your people, huh?
Yeah, I go to houses. Most people are working 9 to 5, so they don't have time to go to an office. They don't have time to sit on the phone with me and go over their insurance.
I was just going to say, for like the life insurance conversations, that's a lot of times that's happening after 6.
Yes, that's I'm going to their houses, drinking coffee with some sweet bread, and comadreando about what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
We're chit chatting and having a conversation, and then thank God, because of my background, I can relate to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I can sit there and talk to them, and because I've paid out life policies now, I really
you can tell the story of a testimonial.
I believe in what I do.
I mean, if you don't believe in what you do, you're really no better than a snake oil salesman.
That's right.
And the reality is I know you believe in what you do, and I see it, and I see your passion. So I have one question for you.
Yeah.
If you could talk to little Dreamer.
Okay.
Like, if you could go back to like age 14.
Okay.
With what you know now, what's the one single most important advice you would have given to your younger self?
Oh, wow.
That's a curveball.
It is. That is a good question. Wow. If I had to talk to myself and at 14.
Yeah, what would you share with yourself?
Jesus. Good question. Good question. Appreciate mother for sure. Appreciate moms, and then I think focus on my education. I think if I had a teacher or a counselor that helped me back then, with the issues I had, my daddy issues, my mama issues, my sister going what she was going through, somebody to kind of like, mentor me, I guess.
You would have told yourself to seek a mentor.
So yeah, seek a mentor and focus on really reading and education. Because I drained that a lot in my children.
Yeah.
And communication. Because I didn't know how to communicate. Maybe I could have been that difference. I could have made the difference earlier if I would have been like, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of warning signs. I mean, I went to a lot of counselors. Yeah. And during that, and they didn't even know I didn't know how to read. So I think it was really,
kind of like falling through the cracks, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that, but well, you're definitely not in the cracks today.
I know. No, I try not to be.
You've got beautiful, beautiful children, all doing well. Yes. You're a business owner.
Yes.
When you shared your story with me, I was very surprised. Like, not from a stance of like I would have been judgy, but you're just very well spoken. You're polished. I would not have assumed that you had lived that life previously. And so you're a great example of a person I want on this podcast, because there is definitely somebody out there, they may not be a youth, they may be in their 20s, even 30s, that are caught in the judicial system, or they're just caught in a rut, or like maybe they're not going to jail, but they are, not living on
their dream.
They're not living their dream, but they're not also living on like the clean side of the law, right? Like they're just kind of floating in the gray area. And a lot of times that happens because they just literally don't know how to do anything else. And so hopefully what you shared today might help somebody.
Yeah.
Like help them know that they could make a different decision. And
they can, but it's all believing in oneself. If I didn't tell myself, this is not what I want, I need to change, then it wouldn't have happened. But
self-talk,
mindset, and sometimes, I had to push a lot of people away. You have to get focused and realize that certain people are a distraction.
It's overwhelming when I talk to high-producing, high-functioning people, how often I hear, yes, I know a lot of people and I associate with a lot of people, but my circle is very small.
Yes.
And I think that as people experience life, you have to make your circle smaller at times, because the more influence you have from so many people, you sometimes don't know which one is the negative, which one is lifting you up. And then as you discern those things, at least this happened for me, my criteria for who's in my inner circle became very, very defined. Like, you have to be a good person. You have to be an honest person. Your word has got to be your bond. If those things don't exist, and I see that you don't treat people well, or you're a dishonest person, I'm not going to talk badly about you. I'm not going to tell you that I think you should make a change for yourself. I'm going to disengage.
Yeah.
Because you want to know what? Who wants to have the negativity? The positivity is what changes communities. It's what changes families, and it's what changes lives.
Yes.
So,
and it's hard because sometimes you love those people that are being negative.
Sure.
Sometimes those people are your own family members.
Absolutely.
Or doubting you, or like, oh yeah, sure. Like, how are you going to open up a business? What do you know about running a business? What do you, and it's
their own fears talking though. It has actually nothing to do with you. It's what they're afraid of.
Yeah. And just prove them wrong. Believe in yourself and focus.
Yes.
And is it scary? Yes. Do you doubt yourself? Yes.
Does it happen doubtful moments, maybe sometimes more than once a day?
A lot, yeah. No, and then not only that, there's times where, there's financial situations. Maybe I didn't budget correctly. Yeah. Now I'm short staffed. I'm doing this. I didn't do that correctly. Now, oh my God, I'm going to pay for this. And you have no other source of income besides your business.
Got to flip something.
So what do you got to? Yeah. So it's all of that comes into play. And luckily for me, I've been blessed with a strong support system with my mother and my sister. And
you got a pretty good brain up there too. That's helped you.
Sometimes when I focus, but really my children have been. I have 6 kids.
That's your motivation.
I have 3 boys and 3 girls. And they keep me on check. They keep me on more than they. Oh yeah, more than they realize. They really do. My daughters are very supportive when they were with the business and everything, and I got them training and I got them doing certain modules now, and
I love it. Hey, prop them for the
cheap
family
labor,
business.
cheap labor.
That's another topic, but I did hear a whole thing about basically you can employ your own child.
Yeah,
you totally can,
yeah.
And I think the laws are slightly different with that, so. Check that out.
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm so very thankful that you were able to be here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for opening up. This is not, like I think I said in the beginning, it's not always easy to expose ourselves and be vulnerable, be authentic. But I think there's more of us out there than we realize.
I think so too.
And I think if we just bring some awareness to everybody kind of has a story, and everybody's story helps shape where they're going next, right?
Mm-hmm.
It helps it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the one person who drives your destiny is you.
That's right.
And when you and so you went through an incredible metamorphosis, and you're still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You're still reinventing yourself. And
That's
so I hope that something that people would take away from today with you is to not ever stop dreaming and never stop growing.
And that's the real reason of my brand. You never give up on your dreams.
Yeah.
Even when you purchase a home, you don't buy a house to buy a house. You buy it because you're dreaming of buying a house.
Yeah.
When you get a car, you dream about that first car.
So true.
And so that's the real focus behind my business. It's I'm there to protect your dreams.
Yeah.
Just like I'm there to protect mine and make mine happen. I have to give something back to my community and make sure I can protect yours as well.
I love it. Never stop dreaming, guys.
Never stop dreaming, guys.
Yeah. So thank you so much for those that are tuning in today. It's an honor and a pleasure to have a great audience. And remember, please share our podcast. The whole point of this is to reach somebody that just needs to hear this message today. And the best way to do that is to share this information. I will always have a link on my Facebook page that you can go in and you can click. I will have a YouTube channel so you could actually view this video there, and you can basically hear us on any podcast distributor, podcast listener. So thank you. Everybody have a productive, amazing week. And always remember, if you need something, you need a friend, you want to chat, you can always reach out. And of course, I'm always looking for amazing, wonderful guests that have a story to share that they think could maybe help somebody onto their next level of life. So thank you. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
My words come from my soul. Control of one's own path is a destiny that a man must choose. And just because